Hello, Jen. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Okay, let's do our nice little quick fire round. Who are you? Where are you from? And where are you based now?
Sure, I'm Jen. I am currently in Singapore after many, many years in Hong Kong. But in a nutshell, actually, I was a trailing baby myself. I was born in Singapore, so it's a full circle now back here. But because my father used to work in the region, but we left. His project finished when I was 6 months old, so we all left, and then went to Australia for to join a. They had a scheme there for certain industries to work in remote areas. So my father was assigned to Darwin, but me, my sister, and my mother were based in Brisbane. So we were there for 3 years, all got Australian citizenship, and then went back to Hong Kong where my parents are originally from. So Hong Kong has been my home, still is my home for the last for all my education. I was there, and then uni went to UK. After graduation, during university I met my now husband. And so when we graduated, we took a leap of faith, traveled, backpacked for 10 months around the world, then came back to Hong Kong to start our careers. After that was right after the global financial crisis. So we started our career in 2009, 2010. And yeah, all the way up to COVID, survived COVID with our two little girls. And then from there, in 2022, we both decided that we needed to have a fresh start after 12 years in Hong Kong. So we quit our job, sold everything, grabbed our girls, and went to France, which is the home where my husband's from, thinking to start a life in the countryside and something completely different to Hong Kong, which we did. We had a very intense um, 18 months of family time there before luck would have it, fate would have it, whatever you call it. My husband's job that he found in France asked us to move to Singapore, to the Singapore office. And that's where we've been since last year, August.
Okay, so I feel like I'm cheating a little bit because I know some of this story because we have talked about this offline, and I really want you to tell some sort of go into a bit of details about the time in France because it's actually hilarious, and I don't want to say like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, your life is hilarious, but it was some funny, really funny experiences for you there. So where can you give, for those whose French geography is rather like
Mhm.
minimal like myself, do you want to give us a bit of an idea of where you were and the size of town and the demographic of town?
Oh, for sure. I wish I said I was like Emily in Paris. I arrived there in my Gucci. No, so oh no, that's not even French. But anyway, we my husband always tells people he's from Lyon, which is sort of in the middle, close to the Alps, but really inland, no sea around. But Lyon is actually the second biggest city of France after Paris. So he says that, but actually he's not from Lyon. He's from the region. He's he's from a city outside, a bit north of Lyon, called Villefranche-sur-Saône. That was actually where he was born. Um, he spent very little time in France, to be fair, in Villefranche particularly. He was born there, but he moved around. So we went back, actually not to Villefranche for another twist. we went back to a tiny town outside of Villefranche-sur-Saône. So the population-wise, Villefranche has, I did Google this, 36,000 people, but we were in a town outside. I don't even know if you call it a town, of
Come on, I'm
a
Australian.
thousand.
I call it a town. Yeah, that is
Yeah,
100% a
okay.
town.
So the little town outside Villefranche-sur-Saône is called Saint Bernard, which is 1,500 people, just under. And you can imagine the demographic there is, um, a little bit more like a sleepier town. It's beautiful. I think that's what it's really unspoiled in terms of, um, like people. It's all just like houses, along the river. Really beautiful, and everybody who they all need to get out of the town to get anything. Delivery is nothing like in Singapore. You don't Delivery is like, you gotta wait a week to get, groceries, not like a 6 hour time slot here. It's not like that. So everybody has a car, although, a lot of days we just hang around, the place. So yeah, I mean, to get there is a bit of a pain. We arrive and there's no direct flights into Lyon itself. So we always have to go through Paris, then either train or another plane or a 5, 6 hour drive down to Lyon. And then from Lyon is then another hour to get to the town that we were at. And yeah, but like France is just one of those places where it sounds romantic, and it really is. In reality, you have the four seasons, like the real four seasons. It's not just like, just a slight change of it's proper four seasons. You drive, just a drive away is, the mountains for skiing. You've got the beaches, you've got like the fields, you've got everything there. Obviously, it comes with its own challenges for sure, but it was a very fairy tale like time we had there for those 18 months.
Can you tell me about how a girl who has a bit of a different look about her may have felt in a town like this?
Yeah, so for those of you who are just
Yeah.
listening, my last name is Thomas, but actually that's like my married name. So I'm Chinese. I'm Chinese Asian from Hong Kong. So I think, uh, demographic wise, definitely it's yeah, there's really not very many Asians. You don't really bump into Asians there,
Yeah.
and it is a rare sight. So, and also I don't speak a very good I don't speak very good French. In this, and I've been with my husband many, many years now. It's coming 18 years this year. Um, and so I'm very good at I'm very good at listening to French. I'm very good at understanding. My listening's pretty good, just from being an observer and and a bystander to all the French meals that they have that go on for hours. Um, so yeah, going there was quite intimidating. I didn't have a French passport, so I had to go through like the Office of Immigration, and that was pretty painful experience to go through in terms, I had to go to classes and stuff. Um, so yeah, I think, that was sort of the first, before arriving, that was my goal. Like when I get there, I'm going to go and find myself an Asian.
Yeah.
I know it sounds awful. It's not that I want to like only hang out with Asians. I just didn't want to feel so isolated.
Yeah.
And I
And
was,
I want you to tell the story though, how you found the Asian.
yeah, like I put on my Asian goggles. I sent the bat signal. No, I mean, I think because we had that in our heads, that our minds, that we had to look for friends. Like it wasn't just Asians. Like, we had to look for friends. And honestly, practically speaking, we had to look for friends that spoke English. And so it probably wouldn't be in our village of 1,500 people. We would look outside. So there were a couple of things we had to do. Obviously, keep our eye open, but, enroll the girls to school where there were kids that were, a bit more international. The story about how we met a very good friend there was completely not planned. Um, uh, I try to keep it short, but basically leaving Hong Kong, a very post COVID, which was super sterile. Everyone was masked, blah, blah. We arrived in France where, COVID was already forgotten. It was really not something that they really was concerned about anymore. And so we arrived within 2 weeks. Everyone was ill. Everyone had was proper flu, not COVID, but just the germs that we were not exposed to for the last 3 years hit us. And so to the doctor, and my husband was sent to the pharmacy to pick up the meds, because in France you don't get the meds from the doctor themselves. So he was queuing up at the pharmacy, and there was a very typical French lady in front of him. I wasn't there, and but very typical French style. They were chatting. The lady and the pharmacist were chatting, and how it happened was they were describing the symptoms, and the lady was saying, "Oh, it's my grandchild. Yes, she's sick. All these symptoms." My husband's ears perked up because my daughter also has the exact same symptoms, very similar in age. And so they striked up a conversation, and then it turned out that then the grandmother said, "Oh yes, and I'm very stressed about it because my son and daughter-in-law are overseas, in somewhere like in Dubai, and I've been tasked to take care of the kids, so I'm quite stressed about it." "Oh, really? Dubai? They travel?" "Oh yes. My mother-in-law is Chinese." Ding, ding, ding. Oh my God, jackpot. So very friendly, they're super nice. The grandmother was super nice. Immediately, found all the connections of "Oh yes, my son also lived in Hong Kong for a while. My wife is from Hong Kong. Wow, how could it be possible in this tiny town so many miles away from any sort of, yeah. And so to find someone who's lived in Hong Kong, married a Chinese, and have daughters sick at the same time, and then turns out they were going to go to the school that we wanted to put the girls. And this school was not like the neighborhood school. This school was in Villefranche, which was 20, 30 minutes away. But anyway, ticked all the boxes, exchanged emails. Next thing we knew, we were invited to their house for an aperitif, for a glass of wine. And yeah, and I think that was a really good introduction to France for me, to have the soft land. That was part of my hope, my wish for a soft landing, to not be afraid to just be like, "Hello, be my friend. I want to be your friend, please." And it turned out they were just the most amazing family, had great connections to link us up to not just other Asians, but other people in around town as well. So we really appreciated that. That was really grateful for that friendship.
But isn't that funny? Because that's like a really what you take as sort of an everyday occurrence when you move to a really expatty place, is that you can do that. "Oh, hi, be my friend" thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to somewhere smaller and more isolated, and it can be often so much trickier to sort of just do that, because I come from
Yeah.
small towns, like that, going in and just saying, "Hi, be my friend," people are a bit like, "Well, I don't really want to, because that's weird, I've got my friends."
Yeah. Yes, and I think that's going to France is the first time I've experienced to be a foreigner. Hong Kong is my home. I've always felt like I belonged. I've had my school friends there. I've had a very strong base and network in Hong Kong. But I did learn from the expats who came to Hong Kong I did learn from their attitude, good or bad, that because I know myself, I'm very happy to meet new people, even though I have a lot of friends and family and everything there. And I am more than happy to help. And I feel great about being able to help people who've just arrived. So with that, I knew, well, not that I know not everyone, wants to make new friends, or not just make new friends, but it can be quite weird when that you think, to go and like, oh yes, I will give you all these things, but you don't know if people want it. But if someone ever comes and asks, I know I would want to, so I just thought, yeah,
You've
why
got to
not?
ask. Yeah.
I'm going to ask, and if they don't want to answer, I know I can, I know that that's not necessarily everyone.
Yeah, so true. So tell me then, this fairy tale landscape that you'd set yourself up with and you'd found your new pals, um, were you happy to move, or were you like, oh, hang on, I was set on being here for a good chunk of time when the Singapore call up happened?
Yeah, I think so France was great. France, and I mean fairy tale in the way of, it was so different to Hong Kong. We Although it wasn't a new scene, we have been there before for Christmas and stuff, so it's not like totally lost and didn't even know where to find, things. So we did, and we did. We knew that France was not a forever place. We expected it to be 5, 6, 7 years until the girls, in terms of, school, we needed to stay somewhere where, they could finish their exams and stuff. So because they're young enough, we knew we had a couple more years before we had to make that decision where to go more permanently. Um, so with that mindset that it wasn't a permanent move, my husband is very much, oh, we must maximize. That's how he just wants to maximize everything. So he, even before he, so when we arrived, it was the beginning of summer. We just traveled like mad there. We just went out all over the place. We were like kids in a candy shop. We didn't, after COVID, we're like, oh my God, we can travel everywhere. So we did that. We did actually, thankfully, get all of that out of our system in terms of visiting not just places but family there, making sure that, we really got the girls reconnected to their French roots. And then when the call came about Singapore, yes, it was a surprise. Definitely. I remember when Antoine told my husband told me, I was like, "You are joking! Don't do this to me." But more on the, it's like, logistically, and I'm sure you understand the whole move, the physical move, and all the paperwork, and just the boxes. Just I didn't want to see a cardboard box, another cardboard box in my life. Like I was just so sick of that. So that was like my first reaction. Like, I don't know, I don't want to move. Really,
I don't want
I
to
was
pack
panicking.
again.
Yeah, but like, of course, as with everything, you let the news sink in, then you start to insert yourself in this new scenario, and then you can't stop obsessing over it. And I think, with all the romantic, France is very romantic, but also with the downsides that I mentioned, with it's definitely not as convenient. We didn't have help. We have family there, but the family there, all spread out. So it's not like, hey, ring, ring, call, can you pop over, help me? I just need to go somewhere there. No, it's not like that. It's a planning. You have to plan days, weeks, months in advance if you want to go out. If you want to go out with a friend or something, or you go to each other's houses, but that always finishes early because someone needs to go to bed. So, and also, any sort of groceries, all that stuff, and given that my husband, when he started his job was actually based in Fontainebleau, which is outside of Paris, and that was a 3 hour drive from where we were. Sorry. That meant that 3 days a week he was there. He spent 2 nights there, and me. Although my kids are kind of like a bit older now, three at that time, 3 and 6, and so they were not in nappies, I suppose. So it's in that sense is easier. I didn't have to watch them like a hawk, but they still needed a lot of attention, and so that was given. And also my French isn't great, so I gave myself stress about, okay, in emergencies, like what I have to pick up this phone and be able to describe in France. Like I knew our address in France, and I had like contacts of, I mean, family that was, somewhat close by. So that was, there was always that in the back of my mind about like, okay, for this to really work, I really have to be very fluent in French, and I really have to be very confident about all these things. And for me to work there, I would have to, that's
So
one of
you didn't work in those 18 months that you were there?
no, because it took 18 months to get my resident card, which was something not so romantic about France, about having to I had to travel to Lyon an hour to attend these classes to qualify so it wasn't just a matter of, oh, I'm spouse of a French person. No, I had to go through all of the immigration procedures to be eligible for it. So I got
So is that, I was going to say, is that what you've now got? Is that for life? Like you could, if you guys ended up back in France
No.
now, or would you have to reapply again?
Nope. No, not at all. They know this trick. France knows. They don't let you get the card and just skedaddle out of there. No, they gotta there is a condition. So with the card that I got, the residency card that I got, the status basically only is for 2 years. If you have that card and you stay there for 2 years, the duration of those 2 years, I think you've got like, I don't know, a couple of weeks or months that you can be out of the country, but otherwise you need to be in France most of the time. Then the next renewal will be 10 years. But if you're not in the country during those 2 years, then too bad. Too bad, no bad. So I get it. I get why they do that, right? I think in a way, I feel like I did that with my family when we left Australia.
Yes.
I have been Australian my whole life, but as you can hear from my accent, I haven't really lived there. Like I love Australia. My husband and I want to end up there.
Yeah.
But it's so yeah, but in long story short, for the French thing, I think we'd have to think of another way if we were to go back. Because I don't think I want to do that 18 months of thing again.
So tell me, like, what were you doing career-wise? Like, what were you doing before you sort of, when you were still in Hong Kong, before the move and before both of you pulling up stumps?
Sure. Yeah, so I studied law, but I was one of those who decided I didn't want to be a lawyer, and I ended up in compliance. So compliance is a way to use my degree in the regulatory compliance side, but not need to be a lawyer. But actually, I really enjoyed it. I started in consultancy, so managed different types of companies, get my bearings right, and then from consultancy, I moved in house into an asset manager. It was a boutique one, but it was good. It was very it was institutional funds. I was alone as a compliance person there, so I got the full spectrum of stuff that I could do. including some US stuff. So that was really good for my career. And from asset management, I moved on to a fintech where I worked in a new space as well in licensing, but also with a startup fintech. I did have a couple of different hats on. That was very rewarding in the way that it was just crazy intense, very exciting. They were launching new products, new geographies. Just yeah, I mean, and I'm great. I mean, each has its own. There's always reasons for leaving each of those jobs, but I'm so grateful for the different things that I've been able to do, and the people I've met have been so brilliant in all their, you know, my ex colleagues. So yeah, I mean, I think coming out of that very intense fintech startup environment into France was really needed for me. I barely took any mat leave for either girls. The girls were 8 weeks and 10 weeks old, and I went back to work for both of them. So I feel like I had a belated mat leave
I love that.
in France.
Well, when the kids are a bit more user friendly, I sometimes feel like that's the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, they can talk to you now. It's not, they're just not just a lump of, not just a potato, and you can actually enjoy them. And I really appreciate that too. Um, so yeah, now in Singapore, I think now we've got a great helper. Girls are settled at school. My husband's happy in his job. So yeah, I'm also looking outward now, and some doing
It's your
something for myself.
time.
Yeah, yeah, and I
Which,
feel
might I
like
add, has started with netball.
indeed, I like that. Yeah, look, I mean, it's so weird. Like I haven't. I used to be so athletic and sporty. My school friends remember me like that. But my goodness, like coming out of motherhood, I've just not done any sort of sport in the traditional sense, right? And I feel like yeah, it's about time.
Yeah, I think, well, poor Jen, I like bullied her into joining my netball club, and then I literally haven't been to training since she started
No,
coming.
every time, where's Joe looking out for you?
That's because I'm also like, oh God, exercise is so hard.
It really is. I mean, in Singapore, you stand still, and I feel like you're exercising.
True, true. Just to let you know that that doesn't actually work for any form of cardio fitness or mid
Yeah,
mid girth weight loss. Just standing there sweating doesn't actually
um,
work. I've established.
I know, I know.
So tell
But
me,
yeah,
tell me, what does what does like next steps look for you like for you? What do you want to do?
I'm at a crossroads, I think. Like I want to, I think a part of me really wants to go back to work. But there it is daunting, like going back. Oh my gosh, I have to be with people for 10 hours on end every day. And
I've got to talk to adults all day.
yeah, like I mean, I think I'm an upbeat, positive person in general, but like, it was. I do think that I probably will need to be a big girl, put on my big girl pants, and get back into the corporate world. But it's hard because I figured this out quite early on. And people have told me, but I'm really experiencing coming to Singapore as a trailing spouse is this whole other monster, this whole other beast where I feel, I felt like, okay, in France, wow, I have to jump through all these hoops to feel like I belong. But it's so, I mean, in Singapore, I speak the language, I know the culture, but I actually feel almost more foreign here because of the job market of being considered equal. Well, there is, I mean, I think it's quite clear we are not equals here as a trailing spouse.
And you
And I
were
think
born here. That's what is just even more mind
that
blowing.
means
It's
nothing.
hilarious.
That means nothing. I probably have to serve the military to feel like I belong. Um,
But you're not allowed to do that, so.
no, even then, I am not welcome.
Actually, I shouldn't say that. You could join the military. You wouldn't have done your military service. I think that's how it rolls. So we shouldn't spread complete false truths.
No, no, I agree. But I mean, I mean, I'm put myself out there. I've really networked. I've spoken to a gazillion recruiters who all start off very positive. Oh, yeah, great, CV, great, tick, tick, tick. And then it comes to, so you need a visa. There's always a pause. So you need a visa, right? Sure, that's not a problem. And then you never hear from them again. And I honestly, at the beginning, I thought, oh, there must be something I'm doing that I need, there's something I need to do. Like I can't, but I think the more I'm not losing hope. It's not like, I mean, I really started my job search about what it was, April now, so about 4 months ago, because that's when our helper started working for us. So I feel like I'm sort of at the beginning stages. And of course, job search everywhere in the world is hard. But the, the yeah, I think I'm struggling a little bit to understand my purpose here, um, in the eyes of Singapore.
Yeah.
I come here
I want to
with
work
very
and
with
pay you
really
tax
good
and
intentions. I really want to pay taxes. Please let me pay taxes. Um, but yeah, so far it's very interesting. It's interesting.
yeah.
I want to keep my head hopes and head high.
Yeah,
But
and look,
let's.
it does happen. People get jobs, and people are getting jobs
Mm,
every day, and everyone says that
mm,
it will improve. And the sort of hardcore pendulum swing that has happened with like trailing spouses in Singapore, in particular, will have to come back to a bit more of a even
yeah.
kilter, I think. But I think you've had such in a quite a short period of time two quite dramatic trailing spouse experiences, both going to France and then to Singapore. And like I said, in a relatively close period of time. And I find that absolutely fascinating that you can feel so different landing in different places as well. Like I think is super interesting. But is there something you wish you'd known before doing either of the moves that would have been more helpful for both of them, or maybe something specific for each of the locations?
Yeah, I think there's no avoiding the stress of logistics and things like that. What does help though is to have to look forward. I think that's one of the things that I find very helpful for myself, to not feel regret of the decisions that you've made, and that helps with the motivation to then go and do stuff, because you're always thinking, okay, I'm going to do this because there's a reason to do this, because I'm going to benefit later. I mean, it's a bit namaste stuff, but I don't really have much advice for the the, the manual physical stuff. You're gonna have to go through the boxes of the paperwork, of the visas, of the managing the moving companies. I mean, great if you could sell everything and not do that. That's I mean, that's a personal thing whether you can or cannot do that. Um, and
But
I
as
find
far
it's
as the
helpful as
headspace
well in front
wise,
of the
then,
kids.
yeah.
when I myself feel like I'm looking forward to something, even though it could feel like, even if the place that you're going to in reality might not on paper look as good as what you have now, but there is a reason why you're going, and you just gotta have to focus on that. What I find the hardest was, the connections I've had at that you're leaving behind, and you're scared, the whole FOMO of everyone's gonna, all your friends and family are gonna stay together and you're gonna go away, and when you come back, is it going to be the same? Are you going to be a foreigner when you go back? And that's I don't feel it yet, but and because I've only been, actually, we're 2024. I've only left Hong Kong 2 years ago. It was only 2 years. No, wait, hang on. Yeah, 2-3 years ago that I left. So, and we make an effort to go back at least once a year and grab as many people as we can and be like, hey, we're still here.
Remember us.
But I think I've got to be honest. I think that we've made some friends. We've made friendship here already, and great, amazing people. But it's obvious that those people you've met here, they've also, already got their solid foundation of friends and networks, and we are, newcomers coming in. So it's not yet the dynamic that I used to have. I think it will come with, hopefully we'll stay here a couple more years, but if we
it definitely does. It definitely comes like 100%.
Yeah, that's fair. Thank you. I need that kind of advice, because that's
100%.
new to me. I'm a new expat, new trailing expat.
But I think that, and I talk about this quite regularly with my friends and with people I talk to on the podcast, like you fall hard and fast. It's like teenage crushes in these situations. So you will find them, and then they're like very dear friends. Like I have friends that I've met in Singapore that are 100% friends for life, that I feel like as close to as I do with my boarding school friends and my primary school friends that I've known literally like half my life. So I definitely think it does come. But you've got like the perfect attitude for it. Like you've got the perfect attitude of like being positive about it and being on the lookout and not burying yourself sort of in a pool of despair.
I have had those moments.
Oh, yes. And I think that is perfectly normal as well.
Yeah, it's I mean, the roller coaster of emotions of, there's just, wow, exciting. And then, oh God, I'm actually leaving. Oh yes, actually. Oh, that's, I don't think I'll ever get used to it. And I'm only starting to get used to my husband traveling, which we didn't need to do when we were in Hong Kong. So that's, something that I need to wrap my head, and I'm still getting used to. I can't say I take it to my stride, take it in my stride when he goes. But lots to learn. I'm trying to keep positive, and I actually, if you look at the facts right now, it's good. We are happy. Kids are happy. I'm finding my way as well. So all is good.
Are you still having French lessons?
Cut that out.
Nope.
With my kids, I mean, I help them with homework.
100%.
So that's something. That's something. I don't know. I think learning a new language is, you have to give your all, otherwise you can forget about it.
Yeah, look, I'm an Australian who is just useless and has my one stock standard English that I'm just so lucky that lots of the world speaks it. It's embarrassing. And my kids even say that. They're like, oh, at their international school, oh, God, it's so boring. Like, both my parents are Australian and we only speak English. Like, the girls have actually noted the fact that their parents are not mixed race or from different countries to each
Mm,
other and that they only
yeah.
speak one language is something that they've actually noticed and are a bit like miffed about.
Oh, I get it. I understand. I mean, my luckily my kids are French and English. They speak French and English, but everyone everyone is speaks Chinese, Mandarin or Cantonese or something, which I am very. I have a bit of shame of that because I speak Cantonese, and yeah, they don't really speak Cantonese. they, I just want to be understood,
Oops.
and it's so hard. It's so hard when you have kids who are learning to speak and express themselves, and then I try and interject with Cantonese, and they look at me and they're like, "Okay," and the conversation's over. I'm like, "No, no, no! Please keep talking to me. Please keep speaking to me. Okay, I'll go back to English." So that's on me, 100%. But yeah, that's another podcast.
Uh, that's funny. I have a girlfriend, an Australian girlfriend, who is married to an Australian and lives in Geneva. But she has had, oh, they had a 2 year stint in Singapore. So she had her first baby in Geneva, one in Singapore, and her third in Geneva. But she said that third in particular just speaks to her in French and then like gets the shits when she's like, "Why don't you understand me?" And Alice is like, "Oh, I'm so bad still."
Yeah, I think this thing about languages, I hope that, Google will be advanced enough with AI that, you know what, I'll just pop this in my ear and then speak to me in whatever language you want.
Yes, or we'll have some of those ridiculous glasses that you can be wearing, and maybe it won't be translating their voice, but it'll be giving you like subtitles to what they're saying under your
Yeah,
glasses.
yeah.
Can someone please invent
I
those or make them cheap enough for me to
I
cruise
think
around wearing them?
I think we're here. We've got to embrace these things, Joe. We
I
can't.
agree. I agree.
Yeah, the kids come home with all sorts of things, and I'm trying to understand. Like even like the social things that happen at school. I'm like, really? Like you're how old? You're going through this
Mm,
already?
mm.
What?
That's another podcast right there.
Mhm. Wish I'm 100% not qualified to
Yeah.
speak of it at all.
Mm,
Yeah.
no, we can navigate. We can all navigate that in our own worlds, literally.
Yes.
Well, Jen, it's been so good to talk to you and put a microphone in front of your face. I'm very thrilled to have been able to catch up with you.
Oops.
So, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. So good.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for letting me speak, have an outlet.
No, much appreciated. I'll see you at netball training.
I hope so. I will see. I'll hold your word for it. All right.